Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your newest episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am your host, Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen. I'm so happy to have all of you here. I'm thrilled with all of the feedback and all of the comments that we've been getting and the 5-star reviews. So keep it coming. Keep sharing away with your friends. Let's keep building this community to help one another. As always, I have fabulous guests, and I'll never stop saying it. And as you all know, I'm the dog lady, and everything I do is related to the dogs. So this is exciting. When she found me and I saw her email, it was a no-brainer. I looked her up and I thought, oh, she's amazing and she has to be on here. So let me tell you guys all about her. So Genie Joseph, PhD, is an Emmy Award Winning screenwriter and filmmaker, and now executive director of the Human Animal Connection, a nonprofit organization dedicated to healing both people and animals through compassionate connections. Oh, my heart. That's all I need. That's all I need right there. So the Human Animal Connection book is based on 33 principles of respecting animal wisdom. We are all animals, and when we learn to include our animal nature, we become better people. Our philosophy, her philosophy is based on thousands of hours of volunteering in shelters and working with shy and traumatized animals with unique methods that help animals heal and become adoptable. Oh, my heart. I have chills. I have full body chills. Welcome, Genie, to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be with you and be with a kindred spirit.
Oh, and how we're just so aligned, because it's everything that I believe in and everything that I've learned to create the books and the coaching and the podcast it's so simple when we follow these animals. So the podcast is I Never Knew But My Dog Did. So tell me what I call your knee story, or sort of the maybe some moments in your life that brought you to your knees that made you discover this human animal connection.
Well, I started with a program called Act Resilient, which uses improv comedy and laughter. And I was working with soldiers and people with PTSD, people who are hospitalized with PTSD. And the program I was doing was incredibly effective, like over 80% reduction in symptoms of PTSD. But when I started bringing in the therapy animals, I was like, oh, wow. What they could do in 10 minutes would like take me weeks, people who wouldn't talk at all, whose hearts were like on another planet, and they just get down on the floor with this dog and it would just open their hearts up. And I just said, oh my God, this is amazing. And so that really shifted the focus of my work. And it began with this rescue dog. I was living in Hawaii. And there was a dog in the shelter who had been there forever and was on the you-know-what list, right? Because this was a kill shelter. Oh. And he had been forced to be a pig hunter. They do this in Hawaii, the wild pigs. And so they take pit bull types and they starve them to make them more aggressive, and they send them out. This is horrible, right? So this dog had scars all over his body, missing teeth. But he was the sweetest dog in the world. I mean, he would sit, like I would be working with a room full of soldiers sitting in a circle. He'd go around and say hello to each one. He knew who was in the most trouble in that moment. And he would just sit with that person. And, he, without words, he would just melt them open, instead of like force them open, he would melt them open. And it was like they really saw a kindred spirit in this dog who had all these, visible scars, and he had this really sad look, but he was just so sweet. And that Oscar, his name was Oscar, he really changed my life course. He really set me on a path. I was in the movie business. I had no plans to do this. This was not, I was not expecting this.
I hear you.
Yeah, people who know me from the movie business of what, dogs? What's she doing with dogs? And, horses and everything. And it was just so amazing. The way that animals can reach us is beyond words.
Yes, I've said that so much. I had a podcast guest who does animal photography, and she works with people healing the loss of pets. And it was the thing that I said to her too was, it's amazing how much they communicate to us without having to say a single word. We humans just talk, and they can say so much in a look or a lean against you.
Yeah.
I remember at Christmas we went to this little thing they had out in I forget where we went, but it was here in maybe Gilbert or something, and there was a Great Dane, and I walked up, and this Great Dane kept leaning against me, and I was in love because I had just put my dog down literally like 2 days ago or a day ago, and this dog was leaning against me, and I started talking to the owner, and the owner said, this is a PTSD service dog, and he will comfort, or she will comfort me and lean against me when she knows that I'm anxious. And I said, we just put my dog down yesterday or the day before. And he said, well, she'll lean against you. I go, no, she's been leaning against me since I walked up. And so is that something common that you see? Like you said, your dog, Oscar, went and found the most broken person, the most pain, ridden person.
I think it's about 20% of dogs. I mean, that's not a scientific number. That's just an anecdotal number, but about 20% of dogs have this kind of significant awareness of human emotions. All dogs have some awareness of human emotions. So, your pet dog or whatever is going to have some sensitivity to your emotions, but there's a kind of subset, I'd say about 20%, that just absolutely know. And it's just strangers. They know, the person that they live with, children that they've never met. They understand. When I would take Oscar to work with kids, he would, be friendly to everyone, say hello to everyone, but there would be someone that he would just nestle down with. And I didn't have to explain that to him, but it was always, the one child that just really needed more, and he would just do it. He would just do it. And he was just so special. So, we will go to the shelters and we'll look for dogs that we think have this potential. We're getting pretty good at identifying that even in a shelter environment, which is horrible as we know, but we can, we've taken a lot of the dogs in our program came from shelter environments, and in some ways, because they've had the trauma, of their life experiences, they have an understanding of it, and also a gratitude and a willingness and a desire to help, humans. And we humans have our troubles.
Yes, we do. And I'm going to say that number's higher, but I know that you specifically know the traits to look for. And I think it's kind of like humans, where you have like highly sensitive people, where all of us can have compassion and empathy, but I think there's like some highly sensitive, a little bit higher level. So that's what I was thinking when you said that about, 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
What breeds do you think, or have you found, seem to have more of those compassionate traits and those understanding therapeutic traits?
Yes, well, I have found in my work, my personal opinion is that all breeds have the potential. I have seen teacup chihuahuas that have saved the life of soldiers. I have seen Great Danes. I've seen poodles. I've seen Labradors. I've seen pit bulls. It's very common in the world of therapy to think of Labradors or Golden Retrievers, that group, and they are excellent at it. But I have a Chihuahua Terrier mix who's, wonderful. And she did not start out wonderful. I'll just tell you that. She was a rescue at the shelter. I was volunteering. I had just moved to Tucson. I didn't have an apartment yet. The people I was staying with, they had one rule: no animals. You can stay with us, but no animals. And here I was volunteering at the shelter. And this little dog, her name is, my name for her is Sophia. That wasn't her shelter name. But she saw me, and she was being led by the shelter worker, being dragged with this cone that was bigger than she was. And she just took one look at me and leapt into my arms.
Oh.
And so I didn't get to choose. She chose me. But she was a feral dog. She scared grown men. I mean, when I got my apartment, and maintenance workers would come over, I had to have her strapped to my waist, sitting down, because she would terrify the maintenance men,
Yeah.
And she went through every class, and she failed the test a couple of times. And finally, through the healing work that I do, she became just, I think, an ideal therapy dog. And she's not, the breed that you would expect. Do you know what I mean? A little thing like that. But so I've seen little purse dogs. I've seen Great Danes that were wonderful therapy dog. I've seen Greyhound rescued, so I think it's important not to think about breed, but to think about the individual personality, just like it's with people. Like, who makes a good doctor? Well, you can't, it's the individual, right?
I love that. And I'm trying to see, I don't know if we can see in the background, I've got my little Chihuahua.
Aww.
JD, sit up. Well, we'll
Yeah,
be able to see it on video,
right.
but Chihuahuas are interesting. And I have volunteered here in Phoenix. They have a rescue that's exclusively Chihuahuas at the city pound, basically. And it's called the Halo Rescue. And it's all Chihuahuas. And the thing that's interesting about that, now I got Jade when she was 5 months old. So she was, someone was giving her up, and I said, oh, I want her. And Jade is, we all say, everybody laughs, Jade is not a normal Chihuahua. And normal Chihuahuas, but huge in personality. And because of their size, they are more defensive. So they tend to seem more aggressive, but they're just protecting their little selves. Jade loves kids and cats and all other dogs. And I started taking her to the dog park right away. And, there's a timid area and there's a regular. I never put her in the timid area. I was like, you got to figure this out, girl. And now she's a 15-pound chunky girl. But with the Chihuahuas, the interesting thing, and you'll probably validate this, is if you get them after a year, they've developed these habits already where they tend to be a little more aggressive. Whereas before the 1 year, from what I've learned, they're able to develop the better habits, and then you just work with them after the 1 year. So what do you think, why they get sort of a bad rap?
Yeah, I think they do have a bad rap for a lot of different reasons, but I am a big believer just in the work that we do. We have a lot of healing methods. So we work with the dogs that are like, would be called unadoptable, either because we don't necessarily work with aggression, but we work with shy and traumatized animals, or what looks like fear aggression, meaning that kind of behavior that you're describing from a Chihuahua. And it takes a little longer, but in my experience, I've only met one dog that I felt could not be rehabilitated in all the thousands of dogs I've been working with. So it's very rare that you have a situation where a dog can't learn to trust. And a lot of, as you mentioned, that Chihuahua being a small dog, they have that sense of, I have to protect myself. So it takes a while to build what I call their reservoir of safety, where they feel like they can trust, like your dog did. You had your dog early. But even like Sophia was, they said she was 2. I think she was actually 1.5 years because she doubled in size. Not to say I don't over-treat her. If you're not going to spoil a dog, why do you have one, right?
That's correct.
I was going to show you a picture, but I don't have it right in front of me. Yeah, so I do believe that dogs can relearn at any age. Dogs can heal at any age. And that was the thing with Oscar. Oscar had a terrible past, and he was 7 years old when I got him from the shelter. And he, had some innate temperament of sensitivity and tenderness, but he learned everything that he needed to learn to be just the absolute perfect therapy dog. I could, he was a pit bull boxer, and I could lead him with one finger. I could just go like this, and he would follow. So I'm a big believer that it's not so important to think about breed, but to think about the individual.
Yeah. And how long does it normally take to sort of get them where they have that trust? I wrote in my book on My Dog is My Relationship Coach. I wrote in my book about that trust where, these dogs, sometimes people will take them in and they've had these trust issues and they have them for, a week or two and they're like, oh, I can't do anything with this one. I got to give it back. So I've always been amazed at how dogs always give us a clean slate, but we never give them a clean slate. So what do you think? How long does it usually take? And then what are some of the methods that you use to have this patience to get them to where they can be therapy dogs?
Yes. Well, dogs and humans, animals and humans, share emotions, and they share our emotional state. And so what we need to do is learn how to get peaceful ourselves. Now, that may be easier said than done, but it can be done. And what it means is that if a dog is agitated, what we need to do is show them something else. We need to show them peace. And what it's like, I think of it as like that waiter at a fancy party offering hors d'oeuvres. He's not forcing it down your mouth. He's just saying, well, here's this lovely thing. You can take it or not. And it's the same thing with teaching dogs how to experience peace, because if they've been in a shelter environment more than about 2 weeks, they are already in that deteriorating cycle. And so it will take different dogs different amounts of time to reverse those patterns, because it's actually their brain gets addicted to the cortisol of the shelter, the stress of the shelter, the stressful environment. They're being continually overamped with too much barking, too much noise, too many smells, too many visions, and not enough freedom of choice. So it's the absolute worst case scenario for a dog is to be confined alone in a kennel, which is, of course, what we have in shelters. And I'm grateful for shelters. They do the best that they can with the resources that they have, but they don't necessarily understand the full range of the emotional needs of the dog. So they take care of the physical, like, the medical and the food and water and the walking. And it's great that they do that, because without that, we'd have a lot of dead dogs on the street, but I think ultimately I'd like to educate shelters that they have emotional needs too. And those emotional needs need to be attended to. And there is a wonderful shelter here, PAC, Pima Animal Care Center. It's right now totally overloaded. They're in dire straits, but they have a wonderful program where they let the dogs play. And when dogs play, they learn from each other. And now these are groups that are supervised. They're not just turning dogs out like in a dog park or something like that. They are evaluating, okay, this is a dog that they call gentle and dainty, meaning that, they like to play nicely, or this is a dog that likes to rough and tumble, or this is a dog that likes to chase. And so they will separate them into their groups. And so they're playing with their play style, which is very important. But if you have a dog that's playing in their appropriate play style, it's one of the best things that can happen in a shelter environment, because dogs are social animals, and even the dogs that don't know how to play well can learn. And this is what I've seen by, being a volunteer there and observing those play groups, is that dogs can learn to trust, and they can learn to pay more attention to each other's cues. Because what happens is, if you have a dog that has not been properly socialized at the ideal age, that they're going to may have a harder time correctly reading another dog's signals that say, no, stay further away. And if they don't read that, then they're going to get into a situation, right? So, but most of the times they will learn from that experience. Sometimes they won't, and the human has to step in. So it's not a situation, oh, just let them work it out. It's not just that. It's not just hands off. But it is, about 85% hands off, in the sense that most of the time they will learn, but 15% the human has to step in and separate a dog that's not learning. So,
I love the play group idea. I love the play style. I think you're absolutely right. And when they get more comfortable, then we can introduce different styles. But I think that's wonderful. Now, what would you say is the biggest struggle in getting these dogs adopted? Because I hear people complain about rescues and they say, oh, it's so expensive. And, which to me, I don't think dogs, no price is too much, but we all have budgets. But they don't understand how much is involved in the cost of that. And I think that, what do you think we could do to get more dogs adopted?
yes. Well, I think it starts with having a shelter environment that attends more to their emotional needs so they're not quite as traumatized when they leave the shelter. That would be ideal. Next, we would want to train people. You don't just adopt the dog. You should have to take a course. You adopt the dog and you take a 6-week course called How to Integrate This Dog into Your Household so that, people can, because people who don't know, if they had this perfect dog before and everything was fine and all you need to do is feed it and walk it and nothing, no problem. Well, you may not have this perfect dog. And, sometimes people choose based upon breed or look, and then they're surprised because they don't know what they're evaluating in the shelter. And that's why, like when we work with the veterans, we take a lot of time to make sure we're pairing the right dog with the right person. Yeah. So sometimes people are unaware of what their expectations are in a dog. They're looking for a sweet little lap dog that's just going to cuddle all day. And this is a dog that needs to run an hour a day, or vice versa. They're looking for a dog that's going to run and they adopted a cuddler. And so it's really important to help people be truthful, not truthful in the sense of lying, but in the sense of authentic about what their expectations are for a partnership with a dog, and to find the dog that's the right match to that. So that's really important. And it is important to recognize that some dogs coming out of the shelter are not in good shape emotionally, physically, or whatever, and not everybody's prepared for that. So it's unfortunate because when dogs get returned to the shelter, it goes back on their record, and that can really hurt. And sometimes it's just as simple as, well, we had kids and we weren't watching, and the kid was pulling the dog's ear, and the next thing you know, there's a bite. Now we have a bite on their record, and that the next person, oh, bite, I'm not going to adopt that dog. He has a bite history. When it was really the people who were not aware of what was going on, or not observing, not making sure that dog was safe, especially first coming home. So I think people need to be better educated, and that's what my book is all about, the human-animal connection. We really talk about all the ways in which dogs are communicating all the time, I believe, and some of us believe that you can actually talk to them in words, as animal communicators, but at the very least, they're communicating with their body language, and they have opinions and thoughts and desires, and it's up to us to be recognizing that. And what happens a lot of times in a new adoption is that people are not reading the dog's signals. So the dog is saying, hey, I need to go out. This worked in my last home, and they don't know that. And so they ignore it. And then there's an accident, and this dog goes back to shelter. And they say, this dog pooped in my house. Well, were you watching? Were you walking? What were you doing?
I love all of that. You're so right. It's more of a training of the owners than it is a training of the dog, because every dog I've ever had has adjusted to the things that I, my lifestyle, or the things I have never had really a dog that didn't get me. They watch you, they observe you. What I find it comes down to is, if you don't have time to spend and give a dog attention, you can't expect a dog to just mold. It's like having a child and saying, I'm not going to interact with this child. They should just learn how to behave with me, instead of really communicating with them. And I love everything that you said there. And I agree. Just like humans, we pay attention to these physical needs, but just like foster children and stuff, we need to really focus on that mental and emotional state of the animals. And I just adore them. Tell me a really good story that was either touching or amazing to you, that really reinserts why you do what you do.
We have a program called Canines Teach Compassion, which is our high school program. And we bring the therapy dogs into the classroom to work with kids. And we're working with kids that are in counseling, so they already are having issues that they're dealing with. And, what we find, like, there was this one, I'll just tell you about one boy, and, he didn't talk at all. He just didn't talk. And he looked, I don't know if he had skipped a grade or two, because he was visibly younger looking in a high school, but he looked like he was a couple of years younger, and just completely isolated, not connecting with anyone. And he was probably maybe about, little guy, maybe 70 pounds or something himself, right? And we had this English bull mastiff, was 130 pounds, very gentle dog, right? Owned by a retired general. Dog's name was Shadow. She was so sweet. And she just picked him. She just picked him, and she licked him, and she licked him, and she licked him, and she could have knocked him over. And after that, he started talking, and you couldn't shut him up. I mean, it was like every class he wanted to talk. What are we doing next? What happens? What's happening? What's this next? What's happens now? And it was just so beautiful to watch this dog who had never licked anyone in class, because normally therapy dogs don't get to lick. Some are allowed, but this was not a dog that would do this normally. And all the other kids saw that this kid was picked by this dog. It's like, you're my special person, you're my special boy. And he just shined after that. He was talkative and engaged, and it's like you could have spent a lot of therapy money, and not gotten that result. So that was very, very powerful to me to see that. And there was another girl in class. This was during COVID, so they were all wearing their masks, right? And she was, I guess their technical term was operational defiant. She would just say no to everything, and she wouldn't wear a mask. And they'd say, well, you can either wear your mask, you can sit in detention for the whole day. And that meant being in a room alone all day. She would choose detention for sitting in the room alone the whole day rather than wear a mask. So that's what she would do, and the second day of class, she came to class, and we hadn't even started yet. And she was like all excited. She said, and we give them little notebooks to write their journal things, the exercises. She says, I forgot my notebook. Should I go get it? And the librarian's jaw dropped. She said, I have never seen her cooperate with anybody. The dog, she said, that's why you guys are here. And, the schools, the ratio in Arizona of guidance counselors to students is like something like 900 students for every one guidance counselor. There's no way that the guidance counselors, they just, it's impossible to help that many kids. What the dogs can do in a very short period of time is really extraordinary. And we teach them how to recognize stress in the dog. So we're not talking about their own emotions, but we'll say like a dog at a 10 is dangerous. You're going to get bit. Somebody's going to get hurt. And a dog at a 1, it's like nothing bothers them. You could drop something, they're barely going to look up. Everything's fine, very peaceful. And we show them that the dogs, to get them to recognize the different states that dogs are in. And then we teach them, well, this is true for you too. Oh. And so they begin to recognize their own emotions. And so we ask them when they first come into class, after we teach this, what is your stress level, right? 0 to 10, right? And then we ask them after they interacted with the dogs. We get between 50 and 60% reduction in stress just from the 1 hour class. And that is really powerful, I'd like to someday, if we can get some funds to do some more scientific studies, but just sort of proof of concept, that is really compelling to see these results. So it's just every day is amazing. And we don't just work with dogs. We work with donkeys, we work with horses, we work with cats, we work with, any animal has the potential to be a therapy animal if they, again, have the right temperament. So we're working with this donkey right now. His workshop is called On Donkey Time. And it's all about, resisting our temptation to pet this cute little miniature white donkey, right? It's so tempting to want to just hug and touch and scratch. And sometimes he likes that, but sometimes he doesn't. And so what we teach the humans is that you might have to at first resist your temptation to go put your arms all over him and hug him and everything. Let him come to you.
Oh,
and in the letting him come to you, you're dropping into this peaceful state. We're teaching them how to do the meditation, how to drop into peaceful state. And the donkey chooses to come to you. And it's beautiful donkeys are really, really great therapy animals when they're the right one, because they are totally motivated by sense of self-preservation and safety. They will not do something that doesn't feel safe. And so if you're not in a safe place, if you're not in a peaceful place, they're not that interested in coming over. The minute you drop in, and I'm talking about the minute, because it's instant, they feel it. They'll walk all the way across the corral and come to you because you've just dropped into a peaceful place. And so that is it's like biofeedback, it's instant. It's so accurate. You can't lie to a donkey. You can't pretend you're calm if you're not.
Yes, it's that energetic vibration. I think, it's kind of with us as humans, you can sense when someone is just not that person that you're going to want to be around because they're very high strung or they're very agitated or, they're very short and reactive. And I love all of that. Now, I'm going to go back to the young lady. It's called oppositional defiant disorder. My son was diagnosed with it.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, it's ODD. So we have ADD, ADHD, and that's ODD. And so my son was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD. And it's a stance that they take that they have no control, and that's how they take control. So there's something going on there. And I just, all of this is just, it makes me so happy. This is what I live for. And that's the thing is recognizing that, they're going to help you, but we also learn then also that interaction, which is the life is not always just about you, but it's being able to say, you have to be aware of somebody else's feelings, and an animal's not going to call you names or yell at you or be angry at you, but they're going to let you know. And the donkey is my favorite. Like, yes. And the Mastiff, because my parents have had Mastiffs. Right now they have a Mastiff boxer, and they are just the biggest lovers, and they're just the do-do-do, they just want to be happy.
Yeah. For the girls to like get this dog to roll over and give the belly and just like love me and cuddle, and it's so good for them to see that. And one of the principles in this class is you can't have compassion for anyone else until you have it for yourself.
Oh, yes. Oh, I need to collaborate with you. I need to collaborate because everything you're saying and everything I write in the book, that's what I always say is, when I finally learned how to be my own best friend and love myself unconditionally, it's because I had that epiphany moment when I was at my darkest moment of like terrible domestic violence relationships, narcissistic relationships over and over for all these years, my entire adult years. And one day I was just like, man, this sucks. What am I doing wrong? What is it about me? And I look over at my little Jade, and she's looking at me with this unconditional love. And it was, Jeannie, it was a moment. It was this profound moment. Like, you don't love yourself unconditionally the way that they love you. Why not, Maureen? And then when I did, everything changed. And this is your book, Human Animal Connection, is all of that. They come here to teach us in just their short little time that they're allowed to be here on the planet because they are so pure. And it just teaches us all the things that are priority in life. And there's no misconception or misunderstanding the things that they do, right? Because we overthink. Well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I shouldn't do this. I always say dogs don't question what they do, and they live life as feelers. We live life as thinkers, right?
Right. That's our downfall. That's our grace and our downfall both.
It is. So, okay, I'm interested in the 33 principles, and I know you don't have to go through all of them, but just I'm so interested in your book, and I'm grabbing your book as soon as we get off, because this is my life, all of it. And I've thought of going to the schools and bringing Jade, and yes. I had Brody, who passed, and he was like this old calm grandpa sort of peace. He was the peaceful presence in the house, and he was a big fluffy Australian, and I miss him terribly. But I was going to bring them to the schools and do the same thing, teaching these kids at a young age, which is why I love that you're doing the CPC and you're doing these. You think about the veterans who've seen so much violence. Now you're teaching peace. And if we teach these kids, I'm all about mindfulness in the schools. Like, there should be a yoga class in PE. There should be animal therapy in schools. If we start children off at this younger age, this appreciation for gentleness, kindness, compassion, they're going to be better humans later on. And I know as a life coach, I'm undoing so much that has happened to a lot of us. I'm helping people unlearn. Nobody's broken. I'm teaching them to unlearn, just like you do with the shelter dogs, right?
That's exactly it, is that we've got to give them another choice, and they're going to choose to experience the safety that we're offering. And we have a saying in human animal connection that there's no such thing as a bad dog, but there is bad behavior. There's behavior maybe you don't like, but all of that behavior is an attempt to feel safe or connected. It's just not always the right strategy. As you mentioned, on the human side, sometimes we connect with people who hurt us, right? And the habit of connection is so strong that we'll take the hurt because we need the connection. And so we have to show people and animals that there's another way, that we can be connected through safety, through peace, through respect, through kindness, through love, through gentleness. That's a whole new world for just about everybody.
Yeah.
Most other people have learned, that connection is fraught with a lot of judgment and lack of compassion, all kinds of things. And one of the things we do in class is we'll line up, all these like 5 different dogs are completely different. The bull mastiff, Sophia, 20 pounds, these different dogs, black, white, all different colors, all different temperaments, and say, what's different about these dogs? And they can see all the differences. Some are tall, some are small, some are, very high energy, some are low energy. They see all the difference. And then, well, what's the same? The same is that they're all dogs. And it's the same thing with the kids. They're all different, and that's good. But there's also a sameness, that we're all human. And when we can get people looking at life through the lens of sameness, it's just going to be a more peaceful world, and less judgmental. And so we use the dogs. We're not even lecturing them about, be nice to your neighbor or whatever. The lectures don't work, right? We know that, right?
For thought process of acceptance. It's like we accept every dog the way they are. We need to accept everybody that we come in contact with for their differences. And what a beautiful vision for me to think, wow, that's really a great way to get things through to these kids. And that's why they love this therapy. I can only imagine, because they get lectured all day long and told what not to do, and to be able to just sit there and, like I said, dogs don't have to say a word, and yet they make us feel so loved. I think even the lesson going further is parents, when you're raising your children, I know I failed in a lot of times with my kids, was the louder I was, the more they'd listen. And actually, the dogs are the opposite. They don't say a dang word, and they teach so much more and so much quicker. So if we just learn as parents and grandparents to just sit back and let them be, just let them figure things out, and you can be calm and let them sort of just feel, I think is the big thing, and stop trying to correct everything that they do. I'm sure with the dogs, you don't correct every single, you're not on top of them.
Exactly. And that's why we do in the Canines Teach Compassion class, we have the kids teach dogs some simple tricks, very simple things: how to jump through a hoop, how to go through a tunnel, how to focus, because not all dogs naturally make eye contact. And the reason why I discovered how focus was important is when I would volunteer in the shelter and somebody would adopt this dog, and I'd say, well, what made you pick that one dog when there's another 499 dogs here? Why'd you pick that one? And they go, oh, I don't know. It was the way he looked at me. I couldn't leave him. And I was like, oh, okay. So after we teach the dog to sit, the first thing in the shelter they need to learn is focus, how to make eye contact with a human, because that's what's going to get them adopted. The dogs that are cowering in the back of the kennel and people think they're afraid, they just walk by because they don't want to scare them. They don't want to make it worse. So they just walk right on by the dogs that are scared. But if a dog is sitting there and he's like looking at you like, take me home, you're going to have a hard time not taking him home.
Yes.
So we teach the kids that. And one of the things that they see, like, for example, with the hula hoop, going through the hula hoop, Sophia knows it. So she'll go first and she'll demonstrate. The other dogs will watch. And then Bailey, who's our trainee, he's not certified yet because he's just a little bit of a, crazy guy. So he takes one look at the hoop, and he's being lured with a treat. He goes around the hoop. to get the treat and not go through the hoop, which is brilliant, right? That is a sign of a smart dog, because they're doing what is the least amount of energy expenditure to get the treat. That's this really smart strategy. It's not our strategy, like we wanted a different outcome, but it's a sign of intelligence to find a better way other than the one that the person is asking for, the teacher's asking for, the parent's asking for. So we have to respect that, and it makes the kids laugh. Everybody laughs when Bailey does that. But I also get to point out that every dog and every human learns differently, and they begin to understand that their learning style might be different from their neighbor. So their neighbor who's getting, sitting next to them getting A's or whatever, maybe they have a different learning style. It's easy for them to listen to a lecture or read a book and get the information. Maybe this child needs something different. They need to touch or do or something different, or hear somebody explain it to them. So, this, when they see how the different dogs learn differently, and there are some dogs, they'll be so perfect at one thing in class, and then you show them the tunnel and they're terrified. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then we all watch the dog kind of go, I'm not doing this, I'm going, and then lure, love, cheer, and they go through. And then we talk about, what is it that motivates this dog? Was it the cheering? Was it the petting? Was it the coaxing? Was it the treat? Because every dog is motivated just a little bit differently. I mean, they all like, most of them like treats, but not all. And then we help them understand, well, what motivates you? And what, the guidance counselor, this lesson blew her away, because she said most parents have no idea how to motivate their kids. And she was talking about one child, and, the child wasn't doing what the parent wanted, and the parent kept taking things away to the point at which the room had no door, on their bedroom had no door anymore, nothing, no toys, no electronics. They just kept taking things away. And taking things away was not what motivated that child. That child needed something different. And so every child is different. And when the kids understand it, it can help the parents understand it. If we can say, hey, I just need you to say, hey, you did okay today.
Yeah.
I just need you to say. And so when we say good dog, we also want to teach the kids. We have this thing, this is an acupuncture point. We just gently tap on this place right here, and we just say, good person. And we do it to the dog, and we do it to the person. And then once you've done it a few times, you don't have to do it physically, because you can just say it silently. You can be in class and you can say, good person.
Yes. And I talk about, obviously I'm a relationship coach, and it doesn't have to be just romantic, but all relationships in our lives. And I talk about, the love languages, and that doesn't just apply, to couples. It applies to, how do the people you love receive love? And that's the same exact thing that you're saying is, this dog likes to just sit on your lap and be pet. I have a border Aussie who wants to throw the ball 100 million times a day, and I'm going to sit and throw that ball 100 million times a day, while Jade, the Chihuahua, wants to curl up like a cinnamon roll and be warm and cozy in a little sweater, but that's exactly what you taught them, was we all receive things differently. We receive love differently, and we show love differently. And I think that's a key point, is honing in the way that you have to hone in on these dogs. And then we have to hone in on each other and say, oh, I always tell everyone, one of the methods I use in my coaching is listen to what people say, and you'll know how they like to be loved. And one of those things is the seeing, hearing, tasting, sound, all that. So if, for example, listeners, if Genie says to me, oh, you know what that looks like to me, Maureen? I saw this thing. Well, then I know that Genie is a visual person. And so I would go further and listen to what she says. If she says, oh, someone gave me a hug today and it just was so nice, or I love it when someone just holds my hand, then I know she likes affection. That's how she receives it. But if she says, someone gave me the best compliment today and they told me I was doing a good job, well, she's a words of affirmation. And the problem with us is you have a different one than I do. So if for me, like acts of service, I'm ADHD and I get overwhelmed. So acts of service to me is like, you're helping me out. So if I like acts of service, I'm not going to go, hey, Genie, I'm going to do all these things for you today. I'm going to help you out. That's usually what we do, is I love it, so you must love it too. But Genie likes words. And so I think that applies with both the animals and the
Absolutely.
kids,
Yeah.
right?
Well, when the kids can see three dogs learn a new task and they all learn differently, it really drives it home, because you can, you see, when you observe it in the dogs, how they're approaching things. Some are like, oh, that's scary. They need to know it's safe before they're going to try something new. Another dog, if you just lure that treat, that's all it takes and they're done. Or your tone of voice, your cheering, your enthusiasm, that high, you can do it. And that's, she's going to do it.
Yes.
So
And I
it
think
helps.
with the special needs kids too, I feel like everyone's trying to get them to do something all of the time. And I feel as if the dogs never ask you to do anything. They
Right.
like just want you to be like, I'll be here with you. And I'm not asking you to do anything, because we're always challenging, especially our special needs, our spectrum children, our neurodivergent, which all of those are special to my heart. And I'm actually going to start coaching that demographic, because I think it's amazing. And
Yeah.
I think that's why, if you think about, I always say there's no such thing as a service dog, because every single dog services love in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's just like you've got the dogs in the hospital that make the sick, that are not feeling well. It brings a smile to their face. The PTSD for the soldiers, the special needs kids. There is a dog for everyone. And my favorite thing you said in this podcast was, make sure we have compatibility. I mean,
Yeah.
we pick partners, friends that way. We don't pick our family
Yeah.
that way, but we can choose to, kind of have our family or not have our family. But I think you're right. It's partnering up with the compatibility, and 90% of the time, the dogs are going to decide that over you deciding
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, volunteering in the shelters, I've seen some adoptions. It's like, oh no, like this person is not a right. And you can't say that. You're not allowed, right? They want to get the dogs out of the shelter, so they'll take you. But sometimes I just see it's just all not going to go right. And sometimes those dogs are back the next week. And it's really sad, because it really is like a marriage. You really want to find the right match of energy, expectation, and understanding. And the dogs know instantly. So the dogs will choose. You watch them, they'll pick their person. So we were just recently, it was Christmas actually. We were at the shelter, and all of us volunteers made Christmas dinner for 500 dogs. It was
Oh,
doggy dinners, doggy Christmas, right? So, and then we got a chance after we finished doing that, we got to spend this one with this little pitty, and she was so sweet. I mean, she just like, there were four of us in the yard with her, and she would just go up to each one and just love on them and pick them. And, and she just, the way she would just like instant bonding. It was like instant, and then she'd go the next one. And it was just really, really fun. And she knew who wanted to throw the ball and who wanted to just sit and cuddle. And she just adapted to each one. And it's like, my God, if we humans could do that. So one of the principles in our book is called Towards and Away. I just want to mention this one. I'll leave you with one of the principles. Principle number 27, I think, of 33.
nice.
It is this idea, and this is so important because a lot of these kids, are not good at reading social skills. They're on social media, so they've lost a lot of their acuity in person, and so they're missing positive signals. Somebody says, "Hey, come connect," let's talk. They miss it, or someone says, "No, I don't want to talk." They miss that. So there's a lot of missed cross signals going on, especially with the teenagers. It's all ages, but just because we're working with teens. And so in Towards and Away, and this is what we do with the donkey, is that we have our students sit in the chair, and I say, okay, here's the teacher, and I point to the donkey. I said, he's going to teach you. And what he's going to teach you is how to do nothing, or meaning no thing. You're not going to do anything. Like you said earlier, we're just going to be. And when you get to be in your beingness, you're just your presence, your simple goodness, which we work on helping people get connected to, let the donkey come to you, toward you. And we're not going to reach out toward the donkey. We're going to let the donkey come towards us. Now, if the donkey positions himself in a way that he wants to be touched, we'll go ahead and touch him. But if he doesn't like it, he'll move away instantly. If it's not what he wants, or it's not the right touch, or not the right place, or sometimes he'll move so he likes his butt scratched. So he'll put his butt in your face, not your face, but, position himself. So, and it's because he wants his butt scratched. And so he wants you to understand. He figures you should know that. That's why he's doing it, right? So what's wrong with you? You're human, So we want people to recognize the animals have an absolutely intact towards and away. They know what they want to move towards. They move towards what's pleasurable and safe. They move away from what's not good, what doesn't feel safe, what isn't good. As humans, we've had to override our own natural towards and away so often, have to stay with someone who's not healthy, or in a work environment where we're forced to be with coworkers we don't feel comfortable with. So we're constantly overriding our own natural guidance of towards and away. And what happens is then we don't know. So then we start moving towards what is not good, and we move away from what is good because our wires are crossed.
Yeah.
And so working with the animals, watching them be absolutely authentic about towards and away is so helpful. And we teach people before the class begins, don't take it personally if the donkey doesn't come up to you, or the donkey doesn't want your touch, because it's really tempting to think, oh, he doesn't like the way I smell, or the way I look, or whatever. No, the donkey just is, whatever. He's got his own reasons for moving away. Maybe he's had enough touch. It could be anything. And so it's a challenge to not take it personal. But what we do is we start to really observe in his eyes and his ears before it even gets to his feet when he's turning away. So sometimes, like with the dogs, because they're so used to being nice to us, they'll give us just an away like this. And that means, okay, I've had enough, or I don't want that touch anymore. And humans often will miss that. They're on autopilot, and they're still petting for themselves. We call that taking touch instead of giving touch, when you're not paying attention to the dog's or the animal's desire for a particular touch, or for how long, or where. And so giving touch should feel as good to you as to the animal. And that's what we want to teach people, is to have that mutual respect, mutual recognition of energy, mutual recognition of towards and away, mutual recognition of what's desired, what is the animal's opinion. So that's one of our principles, is that we respect the animal's opinion. And it's our job to listen, to see, to feel, whatever your senses are that you work with, to smell if the animal wants attention. So with the donkey, and, one of the things I talk about in my book, The Human Animal Connection, is that when dogs are healthy, their senses are in order, meaning they go nose first. They experience the world nose first. They come up and they sniff you. When a dog is traumatized, like in the shelter, their senses get out of order. They've had too much auditory stimulation, all the barking, too much visual stimulation, strangers walking by all the time. Their senses get out of order, and they stop using their nose, and their eyes and their ears are overreacting. So the way we work with those dogs, dogs who've been traumatized, been in the shelter, is we want to get them going back to nose first. And so we offer a stinky treat, to get them really, like I say, stinky to us maybe, but hot dog, chicken, something bacon, something that smells really good, to get them oriented towards nose first. And we're silent. We don't look them in the eye if they're scared. So we're taking away visual and auditory stimulation. We're doing silent interaction until they feel more comfortable. And then we can certainly add back, looking and talking to them. But we're not necessarily going to talk first. This is, again, a very shy dog I'm talking about. So it doesn't mean your home dog. You can certainly talk to your home dog, but when we're working with the shy dogs, this is a really important thing to help them go nose first. And with the donkey, when he'll come over and he'll just put his nose right near me, and he'll smell my breath. And he'll be really interested in, and the animals, they can tell, all kinds of things about our emotions through our breath and stuff. So it's just the politest thing in the world to just breathe together, for the donkey and me to be kind of nose to nose. And I'm just kind of breathing normally, and he's smelling my inhale, and I'm watching his nose just take in my breath. And it's kind of like the Hawaiians, the native Hawaiians. This is what they would do, is that, aloha means I recognize the spirit of life, or the breath of life in you.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they come close, head to, touching foreheads. And what they're doing is they're inhaling each other's scent. So, this is a very natural thing. And so we humans can learn from the animals how to connect with our animal senses, and that will help us be more in balance. So paying attention towards and away, and like even if you're in the line in the grocery store, sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't really want to be near this person. You don't necessarily have a choice if you're packed into a line, but just recognizing that for yourself, just say, this doesn't feel like comfortable energy. This person's really angry, or this person's got some stress, and I don't really enjoy that. And maybe you can't do anything about it in that moment, but just owning that experience will help you reconnect with your native senses of towards and away. And that will make sure that you make better choices.
All of this is so fantastic. You're so right. The nose first is fabulous to me. I just envisioned myself like nose to nose with the donkey. I would be in absolute heaven. But I do this thing that I just started with Callie, my border Aussie, where I say, "Give me nose," and she'll put her nose down, and that's what I'll do is I'll kiss her nose and I'll put my forehead, and I can see her little eyes looking at me, and we're just like there for a minute. So I love that. I've been doing nose first.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you guys are so in tune, and you are such a gift to this world because of that, to be that in tune and understanding with animals. Because I firmly believe that they have so much more wisdom and heart and love in them, that unconditional, I just want to love and be loved. And I just think it's so beautiful. And on the same lines with you, it's following intuition. And that towards and away is your intuition as a human. So if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And that's in my first book, My Dog is More Enlightened Than I Am. That's what I say is we were trained, basically, I'm going to use training. We were trained to do what we were told to do, whether we liked it or not. And that's your childhood. That's your programming. And now when you get older, you're allowed to start being more aware of that. Like you said, as teenagers, I now have a 15-year-old, my grandson, living with me. And it really is, it's tune into, if it doesn't feel good, I have a choice to move away. And I love that, because I think a lot of us that have had codependent thinking and abusive backgrounds, or people pleasing, or even perfectionism mentalities, we think we have to do everything that's forced upon us. And that's why I like the oppositional defiant disorder, because in a way they're stronger and more in alignment with who they are than we, who are like, I'm just going to please this person. I'm not going to speak my truth. I'm going to let them treat me this way because that's just how they are. So that tie-in is the toward and away. And I really, really, really love that. So,
well, one of the reasons why, like when people are walking their dogs on a leash and they're come up to another dog on a leash, and at first it looks like it's going to be okay, and then it's not. A lot of that is because the dogs don't have the choice, the freedom to do their natural movement, what they would do, which they would circle each other and sniff front and back. And, they would do this little dance that if they were off leash, they would do just fine, and they would decide to be friends or not in a second, and it would be over. But because they're on a leash, and perhaps the person is, oh God, oh no, my dog's going to go crazy with this other dog, whatever. There's a lot of tension going down the leash, the person's emotions traveling down that tension. They're tense, the dog gets tense, and the next thing you know, there's
yes.
Because the dogs didn't get to do choose their natural motions, and they, were restrained by leash. And leashes are a reality in our society. Understand it. We can't not have leashes, but the dogs need to have at least some portion of their day, and it varies by dog, of individual choice, where they get to choose in or out, sleep or move, play or not, basic choices that they need to make. And that's not so easy in our human-centered world. So as humans, we need to make sure that they get some time. Like if you have a yard, that's ideal. The dogs can just play and choose what they want to do. That brings what I call their chooser brain back online, which, like you said, when people have been deprived of their choices, then they don't make good choices because their chooser muscle is weak. Or in the case of like the soldiers, they've had to choose life and death too many times, too often, and their chooser gets burnt out. So either weakness or burnout of the chooser. And I'm not saying that that's a literal part of the brain, but metaphorically or psychologically speaking, the ability to make choices is essential for well-being. And, some people need to make lots and lots of choices. Some people just need some. It's not like a set amount for everyone. Same for dogs. Some dogs need to make a lot of choices, and some dogs just need to make some choices each day. And so that's how humans can be better partners for their dogs, is by understanding their dog's need for, we have a whole chapter on balance, how the human can understand, every dog is different in terms of their need for newness or sameness, routine versus newness. They all need some routine around their physical needs, potty, food, sleep, and so on, comfort. But within that, they'll have desires for new experiences, new smells, new sights, new people, new experiences. Some dogs don't need too much of that. They just need very little, like maybe you come with a new treat or a new toy once in a while is enough. Other dogs really need a lot of stimulation. Like one of the things we look for in therapy dogs is that they adapt well to new stimulation, meeting new people.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to be in your house and never leaving your house or eating the same exact meal every single day. So yeah, we have to always put ourselves, in their position. And I am a huge advocate for a dog park. I have learned so much about just the social interactions, and they get to choose who they want to be around, who they don't. There's also an element with sibling dogs that there's a protection there, and there's just so much fun. And I think the earlier you get them to a dog park, the better, because then it just carries on through their life with that socializing when they do run into another dog on a leash or they do end up in a new place. So I love it. As we wrap it up, tell us where to find your book, where we can find dogs that you use for therapy or that are for adoption, that we can get out of the shelters and give them forever homes.
Yes. Well, the first question is my book. It's called The Human Animal Connection. And I think,
Yay, there we go. Oh, look at that. What a great cover.
A big book. Yeah. So that is
is
available on Amazon or wherever you get your books. And I hope that you'll read it. It goes through everything that we've been talking about, our 33 principles. And if you're volunteering with shelter dogs, you'll learn so much. If you've got dogs at home, you'll learn so much. If you're interested in therapy dog work, you'll learn so much. And we also have a website, thehumananimalconnection.org. We have tons of resources, including a 60-minute podcast that's free to evaluate whether or not your dog would be a good candidate for therapy dog work. So that is a great resource. We've got tons of blogs for free on our website. And if you're in Tucson, we'd love to work with you. And if you ever want to come down to Tucson, bring Jade to class, because we do like to work with trainee dogs that are not certified as therapy dogs, because the kids get to we ask them to evaluate. It's kind of fun, but they're very generous. They, do you think this would make a good therapy dog? Why? Why not? Whatever. They're nice, but that is fun for them. And if you're in Tucson, we'd love to have you work with us. Or if you would like to adopt a shelter dog and you're looking for a therapy dog, we'll help guide you on that. We are in Tucson, but we do Zoom conferences. So people who have individual issues, I do animal communication. I don't do medical issues, but I do relationship issues like you do with your coaching. So I look at what's going on in the dynamic between the human and the dog. Where is the communication being missed, and how can people get back in sync with their dog? So I do that by Zoom. So wherever you are, you can contact me either through Maureen or through my email that you'll find on my website. And it's just been a delight to talk with you, Maureen. It's so fun to talk with someone who gets it.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love just all of it. I do. I totally get it. And you even, you taught me so much. So there's my second,
Aww.
and that's Callie. That's the border Aussie, the little derpy. And then this is the first one. And that's
yeah.
my big boy that passed away at Christmas. And then there's Jadey.
Oh, Jade.
Yeah. So it's, I believe all of it. And I know that my dogs really changed my whole life. They started my spiritual journey, and there's nothing, I can't say about dogs that does not, involve love. So you are a gem. I'm so happy you are here. Guys, make sure you please go to Amazon. Don't forget to leave your reviews when you read her book as well, and share it. humananimalconnection.org is where you'll find that podcast video. You'll find all of Genie's information, and please be sure to give her some kudos, share her information too. Anyone who's looking to get a dog, and whether it's the Tucson or the Tucson Phoenix area as well, or I don't care if you want to fly in from Florida to get a dog, we will allow. You come and you get these animals out, or go to your local shelters as well. But I definitely think getting one from Genie and her organization, you're going to get a really well understood dog who's been trained to train you, is how I'm going to say it. So
we need a lot of training.
We do every day. So Genie, thank you so much. What an honor to have you. And I'm going to stay connected with you for sure, because we are like-minded, and we are definitely kindred spirits in believing about these animals. And it's my whole life, my whole world. So guys, that'll wrap it up for us today. In addition to my books, you do know that I have healthy and holistic products on my boutique online, and that is mydogiseverything.net. And Genie couldn't appreciate this. The treats that we have are all homemade. There are no dyes, no preservatives, 3 ingredients only. And I even have one of the flavors, I have 1 milligram of CBD in each treat. So those are good for calming and joint issues and that kind of stuff. Plus,
maybe you can come to Tucson for our book launch and bring your treats.
Yes.
We're going to have some shelter puppies that are ready for adoption. And we're going to have our miniature horse, a therapy horse named Stetson. So we'll have some fun animals. That'll be February 12th. If you can come to Tucson, bring your treats.
Oh,
have treats will travel.
So we have paw balm. So if your puppy's little paws, they get dry, and it's completely safe and lickable, and it's got all organic ingredients. So I'm all about the safety of the babies, not to mention the fashion. So I'll bring some bandanas that we can fancy up our puppies with too, and get them adopted. So good stuff. I am so honored and blessed that you came into my existence. I know there's never coincidences or accidents. I know that it's aligned. So, all right, listeners, that'll do it for today. Thank you again for being here, and leave us any comments, any questions, anything. If you want to get a hold of Genie, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will put you guys in contact via email. And everyone, be well, be happy, and most of all, be kind to those puppies. Love you all. Until next episode, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.